Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Should Have Known Better. I'm Michael Petro, one of your three hosts on the show this week. Joining me, as always, is Jason Brett Frallman and Mark Cowell. You are about to listen to the education episode. What does that entail? Well, briefly, we talk about our high school years to start. Right around that time where you start to give a shit about your grades. What kind of students were we? Some of our favorite teachers, our learning habits, our studying habits, what we responded to, what we didn't respond to. And then moving into our post-secondary years, did we go to university? Were we more community college? How well we adapted to the big change that is from high school to post-secondary. Basically, you go from being governed by your teachers and your parents to you're on your own, kid. It's sink or swim time. And then continuous learning. Are we still studying and taking courses, or have we reached that point in our jobs where we know everything? We definitely don't know everything, but humans, we think we do. All the while asking ourselves, yep, you guys guessed it, our favorite question: should we have known better? Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show. I have a really funny story to start off today.
All right.
So Shauna and me came up with an idea that we want to roast a pig at the farm in the fall. So we've been investigating it and looking around and stuff, and getting I called Cantor's today and got a quote, and it's actually not that expensive. It's less than 44 pounds.
Yeah.
It's $120 for the pig.
There you go.
Dressed, ready to go. Ready to go on the roaster.
Like an outfit? Like a top hat and shit?
Is that a casual or semi-formal? Or
what do they think you're going to do to this pig?
It's business casual.
They're going to roast them. It's like, where you get up and tell funny stories.
Your mama's so fat, you a pig.
I would assume he'd wear a tux or something for an official roast.
Oh, when this anecdote came up today, I did not imagine. But it's so funny because it is about bad word placement. So anyway, so there's a guy at work who's a smoker and smokes meat and very big barbecue enthusiast, right? He's got a Traeger like you do, Mark.
Yep.
And so he walked by the counter today, and I was in the middle of 12 things, and I walked by him and I was like, "Hey, Mike, come here. I want to ask you something." And it was that perfect moment where everything around you goes quiet. So you're the only one. So you're
and everybody's listening.
Yeah, you're talking at crowd volume, but then there's no crowd. So I said, "Hey, Mike, come over here. I want to talk to you about something." And he comes over, and I was like, "Okay, so I want to do a pig on the farm." And at that moment, nothing was happening besides me yelling. And
it would be amazing if he was super quick-witted and said, "And you don't want anyone to find out."
well, there was some wit from the bleachers came, what about the sheep? And then somebody else was like, "I don't think he's going to be welcome back at that petting zoo."
The heavy petting zoo.
Yeah, the heavy petting zoo. So that was my day.
So is that you get the roaster to
Shauna's dad has made one.
Okay. I was going to say, I have real life experience on making roasters. I can tell you how to do it.
Please do. Yeah. If we're struggling, you're going to be my tech support.
You need some chicken wire, you need some rebar, you need some syndicate blocks, and you're golden.
I think this is oil drum style.
Okay,
I think it's one of them where you crack, the ones you see.
Someone who can weld.
Yes. Somebody who has a
shop.
They have a big shop with.
I went somewhere that you rented the roaster.
Yeah.
So they dropped it off at your house and
it
had your pig in it and.
Hashtag Danny's Whole Hog. In Winnipeg does that.
Yeah.
It's $180 for the pig. And
it was
the
pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's and it's only 6 hours. It's not really gone are the days where you'd have to be up at the crack of. You can still be up at the crack of dawn. I don't know anything about smoking meat, but you can get one of these done in an afternoon.
Oh, for sure.
I got to carve it, and it was so.
That's satisfying.
And then you get to steal all the really good pieces and.
Yeah, the carver, the cake cutter and the carver. The cake cutter gets the knife with all the icing, right? The pig carver gets all the crackling and.
Oh yeah, you find that just the pieces that are just done perfectly. It's delicious.
I want to find a way to do this with sanitation in mind. I want to get a mop and like all the marinade and put it in a bucket and like mop the side of the pig. Not just like because it's 44-pound pig. You can't just like paint it with a little barbecue.
Yeah,
a barbecue sauce brush. You're gonna be there.
No, yeah, you need.
It'll be dry on one side by the time you get to the other.
Yeah, definitely. So that's my goal. But yes, that's what happened today. I told everybody I wanted to do a pig.
On the farm.
On the farm. And in no way, shape, or form is that. If you're just tuning in right now, if you skip to this point and you missed the other stuff.
Roasting.
We're talking about roasting pigs. But what we're really here to talk about is education. That's a hard segue.
That's a hard left turn.
Yeah. Today's episode is all about our education, which I think, Mark, you came up with this one, right? You were kind of you threw this out there where you said we should do one on education and one on.
Sure. Yeah.
Housing.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take back the throw too. Okay.
I feel as though you came up with it, Mike.
I don't want all this. This is a democracy. This is a shared effort. This is 35.5%. Is my math? Is it 33.333?
30.3 repeating.
But yeah, no. So this is a shared idea center. So I think someone comes up with an idea and we all cordially agree on it.
I like to think of it as a brain trust.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I figured with education, I started to think more along the lines of like how to talk about it. I started to think, well, when you start giving a fuck, I guess,
right,
about your grades, right? Because you don't give a fuck when it's like colors inside the lines.
Well, I have one short story about that. So
sure.
I grew up in Winnipeg till I was 4 or 5. So then we moved to Sioux Lookout, and I remember the kindergarten that I attended was like 2 stories, vaulted ceiling inside. There was this gigantic slide. There was like clothing racks for dress up. And we literally just wandered around and did
Sounds
whatever.
a lot like Kid City.
Yeah.
We just did whatever the fuck we wanted. Like there was no class. There was no rows of desks or anything.
There's no regiment.
You just went and did whatever you felt like, I guess.
You experienced.
Yeah, and then so I went from that to Sioux Lookout, where it's desks in rows. Now we're doing colors and shapes. Now we're doing the basic numbers and letters. Like, and it was such a shocking, like, oh my God, those kids in Winnipeg are not going to get through life. Like, that's what I thought when I was a kid. I'm like, we wouldn't do it. We were just playing, and now we're actually learning.
So you had to learn in Sioux Lookout, but you had to play in Winnipeg?
Yeah, so I moved from playing full time, from playing whatever 6 hours a day or whatever, to like actually learning, and it was like, oh, this is school now. I'm actually becoming a better person.
Wow, that's so early.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, educational hotbed of Sioux Lookout.
I guess.
A lot of the country's minds come out of there.
Yeah.
Well, they need an extra grade just to get out of high school.
It's a not known fact that's where Elon Musk is actually from.
Yes, little known fact. His real name is Elon Muskox. He's
Elon Muskovich.
He's from that area, but
well played. Mark, what about you? Like, when did you start noticing that you were like, I should do better?
my first,
we're getting there.
My first response is like, never.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
No, never actually made that realization. Probably made the realization when I was already done school.
Okay.
I didn't take grade school serious at all. No. I didn't take the beginning of university seriously.
I was going to say, nor did I take university serious, apparently.
I maybe took the end of university slightly seriously, but no.
Which tells me, were you a good student?
Define good student.
Okay, all right. Let's break that down a little bit. Like,
is good student getting good marks?
Yes.
Being understanding the material?
Yes.
Or, cooperating with the class?
No. Okay, so not being.
I was good at gaming the system.
Yeah, okay.
So I had the good marks, but I don't think you would qualify me as a good student at all.
Yeah.
Probably a terrible student.
I wasn't overly studious or much of a team player.
You were anti-establishment.
I kind of did my own thing.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is because if you're going like you didn't really take it seriously, it may have meant that came naturally to you, right? So therefore, I'm just using powers of deduction.
I was a bright kid, and I think I just got bored with school and the pace that it was going at. So
these minions, they can have this education.
I fucked around a lot. And
well, no, I mean, if you're not challenged, you're not you're not entertained, right? So, like that makes sense to me that you wouldn't.
Yeah, that's what they told me anyways, that's why I was so disruptive and everything else, is because I just understood the stuff and I didn't need the teacher to teach it to me. So I spent my time making learning difficult for others.
Like how so? Give us an example. I really want to know.
I was the class clown. I had to act up. I had to make stupid jokes. I had to talk out in class and talk back to teachers and get kicked out of every class. And I was just like, I wasn't an angry bad student. I just thought I was really funny. So I'd make lots of stupid comments and teachers didn't like me for that.
I loved kids like you. I like being entertained in class because I was always in like the fourth checkbox in like K through 8 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like I was always like the middle area, the gray area, like the C's and the D's in junior high and high school. I didn't take to book learning at all. I took to like the practical classes, like band, theater, gym, drama, choir. Like, you know, there was a running trend there, right? It was, if I could do it, I'd enjoy it. English I really enjoyed too. But I didn't really start giving a shit until the threat of like post-secondary was looming around the corner in like, you know, grade 11. I guess like halfway through grade 11, I'm like, oh, okay, like I should give a fuck because, you know, there's this big push for, you know, you must go to university, right? But yeah, I never took shit really seriously in elementary either.
No, I didn't. And even in high school, I don't think I didn't graduate with the rest of my class in grade 12 because I got kicked out of math in grade 12. So I had to go to summer school to graduate, but not because I had bad marks. Just right. I missed too many classes and I got kicked out.
Jason, did you know that we were sitting in front of Goodwill Hunting?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't know.
What you may not realize.
I was on the
sitting in front of two of them probably.
Don't I feel like an actual janitor?
Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm confused. I was thinking of Beautiful Mind.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, I used that make learning difficult for others because I looked back at a report card from, I think it was like grade 3 or something like that, like a young Mark. I think it was right around the time that I skipped a grade. And my report card was, Mark is an extremely bright and talented student, but his constant outbursts make learning difficult for others. And that pretty much summed up my school career through to high school, is that I knew it didn't take me very long to understand the concepts of school. I didn't need lots of learning and repetition. I saw it, I understood it, I did it. And I was able to write an exam and answer it on the exam. So I didn't like doing the assignments because the assignments were just tedious because I knew it already.
You unlocked the game.
Yeah, why am I going through the motions?
Yeah, and I was horrible. Like I wouldn't do any of my assignments for the year knowing that I could write exams and score 98% and that would be enough to pass the course. So I'd get like 90s on my exams and then not hand in all my assignments during the year and get like 65. Because I got nothing for the assignments, but I made it all up in the exams.
That's interesting. Did you care?
No.
It's like, I'm going to fucking tank it.
No, and somebody figured out along the way it's because I was smart and I was kind of a brat, and then I skipped a grade, and then they put me in gifted education and they put me in special classes, and it never was that entertaining. Like nobody ever challenged me enough. I don't think. Not that it was easy, but it wasn't the kind of challenge that I hoped for.
Yeah, no, totally.
So that was kind of my school career. And then I went to university, screwed around. I went to university, like I finished my first year of university before I turned 18. So I'd already completed 1 year university and turned 18. And that's
not, the timing isn't.
Yeah. And so I screwed around. I did 2 years and got shitty grades and didn't care because university is way more about assignments, like actually writing papers than it is just writing exams.
Okay. Right. I didn't go.
And then I took 2 years off and then I went back for 3 years. Yeah. 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I always say I got a 3-year degree in 3-year degree in 5 years of school spread out over 7 years. Because I did 2 years, 2 years off.
You have to be smart to do that kind of math.
Did you like it that way, or did you maybe think that you should have done it all in one bulk?
No, I learned early that I was screwing up, and I'm glad I didn't screw up too bad, that I was able to make up for it.
Right.
My last 3 years, I actually got decent grades, but then because it had to balance off the shitty grades from my first 2 years, that my GPA wasn't super high, but I didn't go into a field, like I just needed my degree.
Yeah.
I didn't really matter what my scores were because it wasn't like I was trying to get into medical school or law school or something.
Not like I'm cutting open brains or anything.
Yeah. So I was just there to finish.
Jason, did you go to university too?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Sounds like there's a story.
Yeah, there is a story, yeah. So I went to university. I remember in grade 9, so like, 14 years old or something like that? Yeah, probably 14. They set us down in front of a black and white computer, and there's this like database, and you say, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm bad at, and whatever.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I think it was based on the Briggs-Myers system. And so you fill it out, and then at
Like
the
the
end,
personality test?
yeah.
Okay.
And they said this is how people that have these jobs that are successful and happy in them, this is what they scored, and so these are good things for you. And so because I had good grades, it basically, the computer said like, well, Jason can do whatever he wants. He can, like we're not going to filter a bunch of stuff out here. So I literally remembered sorting it by money and going down the list.
Fuck yeah.
Because what else is a 14-year-old going to do? It's the dumbest. Let's ask 14-year-olds what they want to do with their life. That whoever asks that question is an idiot. That's the worst thing you can do.
It's like I just got my balls and now you want me to know what I'm supposed to do
yeah.
with them?
And you got to do this in grade 9 so you can pick your classes so that you can get into your thing along the way or whatever. So I literally sorted it by money. I'm like, okay, no, don't want to do it. Don't want to do that. I remember looking, going, oh, doctor. And this was
like
my
doctor
entire,
or doctor?
A doctor. So my entire rationale at that age and my whole career path tried to follow was based on, oh, he has to touch yucky stuff. Don't want to do that. Oh, dentist. He has to touch yucky stuff.
Yuckier
I don't want
in
to
some
do
cases.
that. Yeah. And then I got to optometrist. I'm like, he doesn't have to touch anything. I'll be an optometrist. That's what my whole decision was based on. So then I took the courses so that I could do whatever, and you can only do optometry in one English school in Canada and one French one. So like everyone's
pretty prestigious club.
Everyone's applying to all the schools they want to go to. I'm like, I'll put some check boxes, but I'm either in or I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. So I got in. You don't get into optometry. You get a science degree, and then you apply from that into optometry. But I went to Waterloo for that. But just failed fucking miserably. Like went from probably like high 70s to mid 80s, probably my overall average. And then I remember thinking I'm in university and I'm taking, now I'm taking the next physics or whatever. And it wasn't any new material. It was all the stuff that we'd learned. But I went from like 85 to like 25%.
Oh.
I just
shot down like a German warplane.
And it was like, I remember that realization going like, well, why am I already know all of this. I've already written these tests. I'm sure in second and third year it would have been, new stuff, but they're sort of trying to get that like standard, make sure everybody's on the same page before we go to the next thing. Some schools,
everybody's cattle.
Right. Some people will have learned more and some people will have learned less. Let's get everyone up to speed at a certain, common denominator. So I just like flunked out miserably. And in science that's the only faculty that if you flunk your first term or first semester, whichever, your first 4 months, then you get kicked out. But you're automatically allowed back in.
I don't need no stinking list. Sorry.
I just hear him smiling. I'm totally in you.
I'm just doing my own thing over here. Never mind. I'm listening. I'm just battling. I'm battling the
paper. What was that phrase you used, Mark? Distracting others, or how?
Battling the paper. See, I still do it.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
Okay, sorry. So where were you going?
So in science you have to go home, but you're automatically allowed in the next year for the same thing. All the other faculties, you get a chance to like get your shit together in January, next term or semester.
That's nice.
Well, yeah, and so I tried to talk about it. He's like, no, we just do that. He said, go home. And he said, his advice was, because I went and talked to the dean and everything, and he said, no, just go home, get the worst possible job you can find, and figure out for yourself whether you really want to be doing this or not. Because we know you can do it, or you wouldn't have got in. So you're not doing it. Why are you not doing it? So I went home and got a crappy job, and then September rolls around.
And then stuck with that crappy job.
September rolled around, and I was back in university again. And it was my probationary requirements were that I had to have an overall 60 or 65 average and couldn't fail anything. And I did get the average, just barely. But I failed
by the plasma of your eyes.
Yeah, I failed the one lab class that I had passed previously. But that doesn't count. But that was also the summer that my brother had taken his life.
Okay.
And so
extenuating circumstances.
And they said that that's an it's an automatic in. You can come back next year. You have to go again, but you can come back next year. And I remember having a conversation with the dean again and saying, like, we both know I can do this. I'm actually not interested in this. The only class I've taken here that I got really high marks in that I loved was Introductory to Psych. And it has nothing to, it's my one elective. It has nothing to do with any of these other physics and, all the optics and stuff you're going to need.
It's interesting that, like, they're like, go.
Now, when you reflect back on that.
Hang on. Don't jump the shark. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's the whole purpose of this.
But I had to I would have missed the joke.
Oh,
if I didn't say.
Yeah.
You talked about light, and I said reflect.
Sometimes they're so smooth.
I know. They're not obvious.
It's like watching an episode of Arrested Development. They're just so worked in sometimes with you.
So I remember because both times when I flunked out, I stayed there, knowing that, okay, this is done for like a month kind of thing. And I remember hanging with my buddy. He had the highest end computer on the floor with 386. They just come out kind of thing.
With a 14.4 modem?
Oh, yeah. I don't think they even had a modem. Maybe. No, I didn't have a modem at that point.
Both of you need to translate what the fuck you're talking about.
Pre-internet.
I know how to plug the modem into the wall.
Big old dial-up modems with the...
I want to hear that again. Do it again.
That's a good one, actually. That's pretty close.
That's when it's negotiating what speed it can go at.
I felt like I was watching internet porn in 1999 again for a second there.
There you go.
Do you remember that time where you used to like pick up the phone and if somebody...
Oh, you crashed my download, you bastard.
So loud. Or when someone... like it's the fax machine noise, essentially,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. No, you're saying...
But yeah, so I just... Everyone would go to class and I would just sit there and bang away on his computer and like taught myself computers.
So there's the transition.
Yeah. So that was the first time I'd worked on a IBM, what we call a PC now, and just like reorganized everything, learned how all these different commands worked, started like adjusting things and optimizing his computer for him and stuff. And of course, that's the field I'm in now.
Like a duck to water.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Like when I was trying to learn things that I wasn't really interested in, nearly impossible. Anytime I've sat down to learn something that I have a passion for and interest in, it's a fucking joke. Yeah. It's like drinking gravy. It's just like, what else you got for me?
I wish I could have figured that out when I was younger.
Yeah,
like that's the biggest thing that's going to come of this is that if only I could figure out what I liked doing and did that earlier.
Keep hunting till you find something you're passionate about. And you're done. That's all you have to worry about. I
kind of locked in and tried to, like you did, I picked something, I might as well try to do this thing, and I wasn't fluid enough to try something else. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up.
But you're guided, right? You're doing what your parents did before.
What people tell you, what else are you going to do? You know.
Yeah.
And I did fall in love with what I do now. Mm-hmm. I just wish I didn't fall in love with it.
Right? Because sometimes falling in love with your job definitely means settling.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, well, okay, here we are. But I didn't go to anything at all. Like I got out of high school. I can actually put this on the record now. I got out of high school by cleaning out the gym locker, because like a big equipment locker, because I had tried to do band and gym at the same time, and I missed half my gym, so I had to make up for a gym credit from grade 10 and grade 12. So they're like, hey, you have to go learn CPR and you have to like clean out the locker, like all this bullshit. So I did that, and then like that was like, okay, I'll organize the baseballs.
That should be criminal,
right? I was like, looking back, child labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then the
I
other
guess
thing
it is criminal, actually.
Yeah. No, 2001. How the times have changed. But the other thing was I had a F in biology.
Mm-hmm.
F in biology.
Yeah.
I hated F in biology as well.
F in biology. He's on a roll, ladies and gentlemen.
Some would say he just won't shut up.
Yeah. I want to put what your grade 5 teacher said
Yes.
about you on a
Now,
t-shirt
now you
for
can
you.
see why.
I want to put it on a t-shirt for you because I feel everybody should walk around with their grade 5 teacher's remarks now on a shirt just to be like,
Right.
this is kind of me. Anyways, back to my story. Biology, effing biology. My principal,
Every time.
I got really lucky that I had the same principal from kindergarten to grade 12 minus 1 year when it was the graduating from junior high to high school.
It's important to have principles.
It's important to have many principles. Some are vice, some are normal principles.
I had a lot more vice principals than regular principals.
Is a vice principal a vice? Is that where that came from?
Yeah, isn't later on in life, don't they balance each other out? Your
Kind- yeah.
vices and your principles.
Like a dehumidifier and a humidifier.
Yeah.
So
Can be only one.
you know, so I bought a bottle of Crown Royal and I walked into his office and I just pushed it across the table and went, "Can I get a D, please?" And somehow, some way, not kidding.
Well
not kidding.
done.
Like for context, I should.
Now that's an education.
That's
No, that is literally a usable fucking skill.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's negotiation. It's bartering. It's learning what a favor is.
Evaluating where you're at.
Knowing the room.
where
reading
am I
the
right
room.
now?
Reading people enough to know when you can and when you can't make an offer.
Exactly. Totally. There's so much there. Just wrong. But like I got out. But I mean we used to go to wrestling together. Like this principal.
Oh, I remember this guy.
This is I think somehow we talked about this on I think another Oh, not that principal. I'm late on the uptick today. No, so he would go with his kids and my mom would take me and my friends, and one time we sat by each other, so it just became a thing after, right, where I wasn't wrestling at his house in the basement. There wasn't a video fucking camera. Like this is not that kind of wrestling. So I had that relationship with him, but I think what you're like when I'm talking
you
about
the R word.
I learned very early on that I wasn't going to go to university. Like my mother wasn't a big advocate for it. And I think she knew just because I was diagnosed with ADD in grade 10. So there was a big learning disorder going on.
Right.
When I take the Ritalin, it was like, I do coke for math. That's what it was really, right? Like just to get through.
I believe that was the tagline of it at that time.
Yeah.
Coke for math.
Yeah. Put your child on Ritalin. It's Coke for math.
And that's what got me through.
Right.
So, and then everybody else went. And I remember I used to go hang out with my buddies at university, and it just felt like this not going here. I didn't know what it was going to be, but it was like not going here was a good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't feel like I would have survived it. I think not having any desire to want to learn
Right.
actual things you're supposed to learn.
Right.
Like I couldn't put choir on my resume because I'm not going to be a singer. Right. So it doesn't fucking matter. So I think the grade 12 Crown Royal is street smarts
Right.
kind of coming of age for me, realizing that these are more, I'm better suited for learning this education than your traditional education, so to speak, which has served me well to this point.
Well, I remember in high school we had there was 3 teachers that like had a lasting impact, and one of them was a history teacher, which was weird because I hated history and I thought it was stupid. But he was.
You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Get a plaque made, put it up in your bedroom. Eat, love, pray all you want, my friend. But he was, in my opinion of it, looking back, was that he was concerned with educating us. He wanted us to learn. And history was just sort of like, I have to teach this subject, so that's what we'll do. But he was very bribable. He had this podium. He put all the chairs around the outside 2 circles of the classroom, and he would pace back and forth. And you could bribe him. I found out later that other kids were bribing him with joints for more marks. But if I showed up unprepared, because there was a test every week.
Unprepared by meaning you didn't roll a joint?
No, I wasn't. Yeah, exactly. But I would show up with a chocolate bar and put it on his thing. And it would be like.
You brought a chocolate bar to a joint fight.
Yeah, plus, but I don't know what the other kids were getting, because I would get plus 10% on my tests, and they would get probably plus 20 or something.
Right, yeah. You're in the red, buddy.
Yeah, I remember all the ceiling tiles were painted, and so kids that were in trouble in
That's
their
an
grades,
odd detail from the story.
you would paint some historical thing on the ceiling tile, and you'd pop it up, and then you'd go from a D to a C or a C to a B or whatever. Like, and you're like,
so these were the ways.
he was highly bribable, but it was, you had to play the game right. You had to do all of those things. And
He was teaching you.
He was preparing us for what life's really going to be like, you know.
Yeah.
And of all the teachers I had, I think he best prepared me for ongoing education. And I guess whatever you pick up on the subject of history is your own.
School's about learning.
I always thought he
Not
would get
just what you
fired.
learn in class,
Yeah.
not just the subjects. I
Learn
think
the
there's a lot of learning and education that goes on just going to school,
Yeah.
and aside from what you're taught.
Yeah.
Playing the game.
And that's something that I found that I learned more of. I guess what I did was always learning. I don't want to say taking the shortcut, but I was learning ways to not follow the prescribed system.
Yeah.
There is such a negative connotation with shortcut. I like to refer to it as less work, right? Because we all
Economy of effort.
Yeah, right. Like, are the fruits of your labor,
Right.
are they bearing anything? Because if you're putting in, all this work and nothing's coming out of it, and if you can figure out a shorter distance between 2 points, good on you.
I think they put that emphasis on it though because so few people will work hard, even if they have a shortcut. You know what I mean? And so, I think it's a longer term approach of let's at least convince these kids that hard work will get you somewhere, because otherwise a bunch of them will do no work, and no matter how bright they are or gifted or whatever opportunities come their way, they'll just keep fucking them up because they haven't learned that basic of effort, work, investment.
Yeah, that's true. You can't. That's a trait thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's not a.
I thought I had cracked the code that of how to not work as hard. I remember going through school, like grade school. I always knew, like, I'd go write an exam, and this is why my teachers didn't like me. I'd go write an exam. I'd score extremely high on it, but I'd be an asshole in class. I'd be disruptive, and they didn't need to teach me, which is the worst thing to have in a student, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't need me.
Your teacher,
Unteachable.
yeah, there's no reason to teach me, but I'm still scoring the highest in the class on exams, right? But I'm making it hard for them to teach the kids that need teaching. But I discovered through doing all of that when you score really high, then they come to expect it from you. So if you don't perform again, right, then you're setting the bar too high for yourself.
Yeah, it's a fluke.
So when I went to university, I thought I'd crack this code, and I actually, a couple of my classes, I actually sandbagged.
Like yourself?
Yeah, I sandbagged and purposely didn't do well, so that when I improved as the year went on, my teacher thought that they were doing a great job, and I found that they actually scored me higher for work that wasn't as good because they thought that I improved based on what they taught me.
Oh, that's you sneaky fucking devil. That's
Yeah. And I remember doing it in this creative writing class, and I purposely
This kid's an idiot.
I purposely did shitty and then slowly gauged myself to get better, so that when I did a half-assed version at the end that I got really high marks for, because they thought that I improved so much. And it's
that's a very self-aware thing to have it.
I don't, it's greasy, but I enjoyed it.
Nothing wrong with a little elbow grease.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a story in high school. I realized at a certain point that I could write people's papers for them for beer. Well, malt liquor, let's be honest. Verdor, 6.2%. 6 of those will fuck you up.
Old English being dropped
Yeah, pretty
off
much.
outside of
Yeah, so I figured that out. But
Zimas if you got them.
yeah.
I love that. But what I realized
forgot
in
about
that
that.
process was that I couldn't just write another paper. I would literally, this is most of my work was done on other people's behalf, because I wouldn't do my own sometimes, but
Yeah,
I would
you'd
do the
fuck
other
yourself.
people. Yeah. So I would have to write the second essay for them, and then I would have to translate it to what they would be capable of.
That's such a polite way of saying it.
to sort of what Mark is talking about, that, what if
I had
they,
to use shittier language.
yeah, because if a kid gets 55, 55, 55, 95, well, then they're like, okay, Mike, we know you know.
What are you looking at me for?
Sorry, actually, I was thinking to Mike too. I'm sorry I outed you about this, Mike. But
That's fine. That's fine.
but yeah, and I remember the first time I did it, this guy Mike too that I did it for came back to me, and he was just ecstatic. He said, I got like an 80, 84 or whatever. It wasn't too high that it was, and she read it out in front of the class. And it's the first time in his life anyone had ever done that. He was so proud of it, and I'm like, I think he's missed the point here. You still haven't had your work read out for the class.
Yeah, like all of the glory you're getting, it's secondhand, buddy.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
But it was nice actually to see that from a kid who kind of been sidelined his whole life, and all of a sudden he's getting some praise and some recognition. As twisted as it was, I learned a lot in that experience.
We were talking about this at the beginning when that I got into the Shameless.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And I really relate to Lip.
He means
the
a TV show.
Right?
Lip does need a fucking TV show. Yeah.
Right? He's super smart kid that just fucks around, and he's always looking to make a quick buck and to skirt the system somehow, and it kind of, I don't know. There's this kindred spirit.
Identify with him.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have some Lip, so I mean, part and parcel. But you were kind of breaking something, Jason, where the things, like you said, the things you've learned in high school are more important than what you knows and what book you were in, right? So, like, what's your one like takeaway from high school where you're still using that to this very day? If anything comes to mind, I can.
How to work the system was one of those things.
Okay, so
that was a big thing. Mark sort of touched on that as well. I also remember too had Paul Brown was sort of the higher end math teacher, like grade 12, 13 and stuff. Whatever the advanced level classes were. And he was also very involved in my mind, in education. And so every test you had, you could bring in like a 3x5 card with whatever you wanted written on it. Because he said, you can write down all these formulas, because he did physics as well. You can write down all these formulas. If you don't know how to use them,
that's all that.
I don't care what you've got written down on that piece of paper. So and I remember him saying to us, like, if you're an engineer or whatever, later in life, I don't want you to memorize anything. Don't memorize these formulas. Write them down, because you're going to have a book. Like, you're not going to know what the density of concrete or whatever you'll spend the rest of your life. So he emphasized how important it was to know how to go and look things up and find the information that you actually needed and know how to apply it.
Yeah, the skill is how to find the answer, not necessarily to know it.
Yeah.
And so that was the first, that was in like grade 11 probably, before my first class with him, before a teacher ever approached it that way. And you would get grades for memorizing shit, which is fucking worthless. Useless.
It absolutely is. You're not promoting anything good.
He was teaching us how to think.
Yeah.
And that was honestly the first time that I recognized coming across that from a teacher.
Critical thinking. Mm-hmm. Critical fucking thinking. Like, it is a course that surprises me to this very day that still hasn't even been talked about going into the school system. Mm-hmm. Like, to question not authority in a forceful way, but to question, to believe in truth, but at the same time to verify. Right. And mindless drones.
So important in this internet age where people just, I saw it on the internet, and so therefore it's true. So the earth is now flat. No. You need to be able to evaluate that. What's the source of this?
And even if you never get to Australia.
Is this from Alex Jones or is this from CNN?
Yeah.
These are important skills to have.
I learned band that way, like how you're talking. I learned to look and know what fingering was what note for the trumpet. for the trumpet. And I can tell you when I let one go, Mark.
I also learned that in high school.
Different class, buddy. But I couldn't tell you what note it was.
Right.
I just knew how to play it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
you're like a magpie.
Exactly. I was just a dick to bird.
Yeah.
So, but I wish I could read sheet music in a different way, and because then I would have learned how to write it.
Yeah.
And then I would have maybe written something. Right. Like those ways of learning are detrimental to whatever you're doing. I played jazz band, grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6 years. 6 years concert, 6 years jazz.
Yeah.
I still
What'd you play, Mike?
I played the trumpet.
Nice.
I was really going for skin flute, but I figured to keep it at an adult level, even though I haven't. But that's okay.
I could see you trumpeting.
Yeah, I was second trumpet for the majority. I could play some first, like
you
some
could be
real.
President.
Did presidents play trumpets?
Trump did.
Trump is a different kind of trumpet.
Oh, okay.
I pretended to play the sax.
Like you didn't have them.
I brought it home for 3 years and went to band class, but never practiced.
But like, there's parts that are divvied up to each instrument. Like what, first saxophone, second, like first chair, second chair, third chair. Like no one ever called on you.
I wasn't, because I didn't play in like some accelerated band. Like I went to band. We played in concerts, right? But you weren't like first chair. I didn't have solos, and I didn't. Once in a while, they wanted me to play some notes, and I'd squeak a couple out.
I went to Juilliard. Sorry, did I not?
Yeah. But it was horrible. I never practiced, and I don't know how I stayed in band for the time that I did.
Well, they just give it to you at that. Like,
Sure.
I mean, I do remember 7, 8, 9.
They're going through the motions as well.
I discovered I couldn't apply the same thing that I used in other classes at band.
No, no.
So that's why it wasn't a good class for me.
Practical application.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I could definitely see that. But
Which is probably an earmark of that there should be more classes like that.
Yeah.
That you actually have to learn a practical skill, something you could use somewhere else in life.
well, the one I learned was how to, and I mean this as humbly as possible, but how to command a room, how to walk into a room. And because I walk on stage, right? I'm sure, Mark,
Right.
you know about this too from being in theater, right?
Acting,
like
yeah.
acting, there's a way to walk in, and I knew how to kind of get my situation and know what part I played in what room, and then know how to cater to that room through performing, right? And that skill took me far because like the younger version of me would walk like to try to work a room,
Sure.
right?
Are you comfortable getting up in front of crowds? And
I am still, but I am not comfortable with the nerves, and I feel that you might agree with me on this. Performing arts is two things: learning whatever you're doing,
yeah,
and then learning how to shut up the nerves.
Right.
And if you don't practice both, you lose both. So I don't practice a lot of speaking in public, so I don't have the skill anymore to shut the head up, get rid of the dry mouth and confidently speak. But there was a time for grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 6 years, right?
See, I found those are skills that go into the category of things you learned in school that you weren't necessarily taught.
Yes.
Right? Like
It's not a
they-
lesson.
Yeah.
You got taught how to, like in English class, right? You learn how to write an essay, proper grammar, proper spelling. But when you have to perform it in front of a class, it's forcing you to do it,
Yes.
right? To overcome, but it's not really teaching you how to do it. Like
No.
there's not like a public speaking class. At least I didn't have one.
No.
I
mean, I'm
just
sure
did
there
things
is.
in front of people, and you learn the skill of not being shit scared and being able to speak in front of others and
Be comfortable.
yeah. And that's a huge thing that I think some people that like went through school, got really good grades, and like book smart is I guess what they call it.
Yeah.
Sometimes don't have those skills. They can't get up and speak in front of a group of people and those kind of things. So they don't make great leaders later on in life because they can't speak. Even when they have the right answer or a really good opinion, they don't have the skills to bring it up
Yeah.
and to speak their mind and take control of a situation. So oftentimes the person that has a worse idea takes the lead,
Sure, yeah.
right? And they're just quietly in the back. So that's definitely something that I learned that outside of school is how to get my point across when I thought it was important and be comfortable in front of.
Speak up.
Yeah, how to be. That's what
That's
I
my
spoke
Bernie
up too
Sanders
much,
impression.
maybe, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess being a loudmouth in class taught me not to be scared to speak up in groups.
Right.
And which I've seen you do. And you and there's a skill to doing it. There's trying to be the loudest, or there's trying to be heard.
Right.
So both post-secondary, me not. Then the question is it necessary? Should everybody do it? Briefly touch on
I
that.
had a newspaper column for about a year back, and like a long time ago, like in my 20s, and I wrote one piece on basically saying almost nobody should go to post-secondary school. The take of it was if you need a piece of paper, like you want to be a doctor or an engineer or something, you need that piece of paper, go do it. If not, go to college, or even better, just go intern somewhere. Just start working somewhere. And like, that's been my advice to young people my whole life now is whatever you think you want to do, just go like ride around with the person that does it, or like whatever, go sweep the floors at the electronics shop and just see, like, do I really want to do this? Like, how does, because you have this impression like, oh, I love stereos or I love snowmobiles, so I'm going to, I love fishing, so I'm going to have a fishing camp. Well, if you love fishing and you get a fishing camp, you will be busy all summer. You will never go fishing, And so, like, what's the real life experience of any job?
Yeah.
Just volunteer, even if it's not part of your high school credit system or whatever. Just walk into the place and say, hey, I really want to just hang out here for 2 weeks and I'll do whatever you want. And just watch and look and go, like, does my vision of what I think this will be like reflect reality or not? And find something that then
I think in a perfect world that works, but I don't see it practically working in our society. I think people. So I'm thinking of myself. the thing that you're
Selfish
talking
prick.
about, right? I kind of got interested in something, super interested in electronics and car stereos and stuff. So I hung out at a car stereo shop for my kind of teenage years. So if I would have done what you're doing, I would have just started selling electronics and installing car stereos and just stuck with that.
Right.
I think
Would you have loved it?
I went at the time. I certainly wouldn't have loved it now. I don't think.
Right.
I think by going to university,
Well,
like
you can leave in between when you
Yeah.
stop enjoying it.
So
I mean, I did that myself.
I think university exposes you, like continuing in school when till you're at least a little bit older, exposes you to more things. So like I went to university thinking that I was gonna go into drama, get a theater degree. But I was late to register, and I went to register, and I missed out on all the theater classes for that year. So I took whatever I could get my hand. You talked about taking psychology when you went to optometry school. That's kind of what I did. I'm like, well, what am I got intro to sociology, intro to psychology, justice and law enforcement, all these things that I'm like, okay, I'll get some degrees and some electives, and then I can take my other classes after. And then those electives that I took, the things that I are exposed to, actually changed my mind and shaped and kind of took me on my career path that I ended up with, that I never would have been exposed to if I hadn't gone to university.
Right.
But I didn't do the thing I thought I was going to university for. It was just the exposure to other things that took me in that path.
But you did start this podcast by saying you're not super in love with that career.
Wow.
Well, should have known better.
I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm about ready to change.
Sure, just
Which-
time for a change.
I want to touch on that where it's like one job rest of your life or not, right? Because that's what education teaches you. But so would the happy medium be some sort of post-secondary, university, college, or otherwise something?
I don't think we should stop learning at 17.
No.
You know, I
No.
think that
No, I regret every fucking minute of it. I want electives. I wanted weird courses. I love all these stories that I hear about people now because I've grown up and I've been like, okay, I've picked up books over my life.
Yeah.
You know, I have lots. They're not all read, I'll be honest. There's some ones in there, whatever. But like, I don't have what you guys have, and I don't want it in the sense that I want to show it off or that it will fill some sort of missing part of me. I want it because it seems that people with an education don't have to. I don't. It's hard to say. It's not about being taken seriously, but it's just a thing in society that
There
has
is a
some
part of it. Even like, I mean, let's face it, I flunked out first semester twice in a row. So I don't have anything, you know, and I didn't like get more education after that. That was it for me. That was the end of that road. But it does come up sometimes where I'm like, this is the university that I went to. There is a social stigma is the opposite of the word I'm looking for, but there's a social feather in your cap.
Yes,
part
that's
of
kind of
it.
what I'm saying.
But
Like,
I also remember my first, when I got there, because I small town, small high school, so you go to school with everybody that lives there. Of course, you go to school with some meatheads as well. And I remember like, okay, finally, I'm in Waterloo. I'm in the
Any
science.
jugheads?
I'm in the I'm in the science program. It should be good. You know, this is going to be the best and the brightest or whatever. Like, this is going to be the smart people. And I thought it was going to be these big halcyon days of like higher education. And finally, I'm like, my wings are, you know, I can fly free and I'm going to like develop those ideas. And I got there, I'm like, oh no, this is just people with more money than the average person. There's just as many. It was so disappointing to me. There's so many idiots that I was in school with. And I'm like, how are these morons here? And like, so this thing that I wanted doesn't exist anywhere. I guess maybe it exists in the work, you know, arena later on in life.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, you get a job at Microsoft. You're probably not working with dummies, but you know,
I think it was important to be just in that environment and having those opportunities. I did things like my first 2 years, I screwed around and just like made friends and cut class, but I did things with people at university. So I had experiences. And then when I just went and worked for 2 years, I did the same thing day in and day out, worked at a bar. You know, it didn't have the different variety of experiences that I think I did at university. Mm-hmm. Then I went back, and although I finished my classes and everything else, what I started doing was like getting more involved with other people at the school. I helped found a students association for my major. I became like the inaugural president of that students association, and I sat on the board as a student liaison with the teaching committee for my degree. like little things outside of class.
Yeah.
And so it's all those little extras.
Community.
Yeah, I learned how to network. I learned how to
Again, more things that are not on
Yeah.
the curriculum.
they're not, the things you learn in class. They're just little things you learn socially.
Right.
Yeah.
And I learned how to influence people and get my point across and all that kind of stuff. And I think that served me well later on. So
Make friends and influence people.
that's right.
Or
Yeah.
just-
Somebody should write a book.
It's
about
funny that you bring that
Is
up
that a
because I was thinking earlier, the most useful information that I learned in high school was I found a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People in the library. And I didn't dare sign it out because I didn't want my name to ever be in it, that Jason's the dork that read this book. So I just stole it. Because I also learned how
As
to
you do.
steal books in school. And I would have to carry
feather in your cap.
and I
sir.
would have to carry it around inside a binder so no one would catch me with it. But that was literally that
It's
should
like
have
your
been
porn.
that should
I
have
had
been
to carry it
class.
around inside of a Playboy magazine so that
exactly.
nobody would think I was a nerd.
Pretty much. But that's literally the most useful information that I learned in school was in a book in the library that I had to pretend I'd never seen or never read. And that has stayed with me. That information has stayed with me my whole life. Like that should be a frickin' class, and not just that, but what Mark is talking about, how to and what you talked about, how to work a room and how to interact with people and how to get your point across, like Mark said, like that should probably be the number one class that's mandatory. And if you don't want to take gym, I don't give a fuck because gym is stupid. Like, if you want to play basketball, go play basketball. You don't get credit for this.
No,
I'm sorry.
you shouldn't. Well, it's not about getting credit for, like, it's not what you're doing that's getting you credit. It's about completing exercises and instilling some sort of active, healthy lifestyle. It is not a course that should be graded, but just a compulsory.
Right.
Compulsory is the right word?
That's the word.
So, thank you. I think that's why they still instill it. Because if they stop, then these kids sit all day.
Well, yeah, and also, like I said earlier, it's to fight their own worst tendencies.
Yeah.
Like if you don't make them do it, they won't do it at all.
Oh, totally. I don't do it. Nobody.
Yeah.
And if Shauna really made me do it, I would do it. Like
Right.
100%, I'd go work out. But yeah, in high school, it's to instill some sort of like, and you change in the change
it
room.
made me
and there's
angry.
like those. Yeah, it's.
I got to high school and they said you still have to have minimum
even those
gym
little things
classes.
are teaching you
Yes,
stuff, right?
yeah.
Right. It's teaching you how to go into and behave in a locker room with other naked men and.
But
Yeah,
do we
there's-
need to teach that to people?
I don't know. It's life skills,
Yes,
I
you do
guess.
figure it out, but you would also figure it out at 23 at the gym you go to there. Like these are not.
But I'd
skills that
rather
need to
be more
taught.
adjusted to it at 16 than 23, because I feel at 23 I'd be, oh my god, like some
A room full of
giant
a room full
scene.
of dicks is a little bit. Yeah, that is a little
Yeah,
bit.
I want
a
to
lot
be used
deal
to
with.
a room full of dicks. I don't want to see a dick for my first time at 23. I don't want to see dicks in general, but I'm saying if it's got to be in my toolbox,
Yeah, you're right. It's better high school than at Thermea. That would be off-putting.
private versus public. What are our thoughts on?
I have no experience with private school.
Okay, from off the cuff, no experience, your opinion. What like for bird's eye view?
I found my friends that went to private school in high school
Yeah.
had, for the most part, parents that were maybe a little bit more involved in their education. So my friends that went to like St. Paul's.
They're paying for it.
Yeah, they're paying for it, which means they're more involved, which means they maybe influence you. Like they stay on top of you a little bit more because they're paying for your
They're
education.
more of a shadow, yeah.
And those people went into your, they're the business people that I
Your
know, right?
Rolodex.
They're investment bankers and those kind of people
The 1%.
that became business people.
Sure.
Yes.
And that's where those people meet each other.
Yeah,
You didn't
and
go to
that's
St. Paul's to go run off to L.A.
exactly. You didn't go there because you're artsy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? You just went there to do school,
Yeah.
right? You became a banker, you became
Fucking
a
school.
lawyer, you
Only
became
school.
a doctor, something like that. And so most of the guys I know that went to private schools ended up being a little bit more serious in high school, which means you didn't. Like I learned after the fact out of high school that I'm like, oh, I should have got better grades to have more options. Right? It would have been nice to having more options when I'm going to university, because maybe I'd like to take some things, but I can't because my grades weren't good enough.
Sure, yeah.
And had I known that, I would. And I think my friends that went to private school, I don't know if you can say that across the board, but my experience with the people I knew, their parents kind of instilled that in them and they got good grades and then they had more options.
Right.
It's I didn't know about private school till later. So my only dealings with private school and people are millennials now, like ones who are graduating. A couple guys rolled through where I work and went to St. Paul's too. And I got the short end of the stick. I got the entitled little punk ass bitch, you know, like the one who's a weasel and the one like and I get that not everybody's like that. But I mean, and this is only my isolated incident of it, but I was just like this. I mean, I hope not all of you are like this,
right.
because it definitely does also breed that mommy and daddy bought me this education, just like mommy and daddy bought me this car.
Right.
So you don't have any sort of, there's no hard work in it, because when you pay to get somebody in, everybody's on the same level and are competitive, whereas public school, I feel everybody's on the same level, but they're all trying to just get better, right? Like you want to be as the best of a student as possible. There's less competition because the AP classes are very small in high school, so there's a very small area. Like, I mean, I'll talk to Shauna, and I think less than 30 graduated from her high school.
Right.
Rural high school, obviously, 257 with mine.
Wow.
So obviously with you too, with Sue Lookout, small graduating class. But yeah,
here's the thing though. I feel like that kid is going to develop that bad attitude, if not because of the school, because of the car, because of the first house, because of the trust fund.
The school's not the only
that kid's
thing.
Fucked anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you're not learning those other factors. Like, you're not learning how to not get what you want. You're not learning how to fail. Necessarily.
The very big swings.
Yeah, because I learned a lot by not getting what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's the biggest lesson in life. Don't get what you like when you don't get what you want.
Yeah.
Because it does not
Apparently
discriminate. Apparently
you can't always get what you want.
Can you?
No, there's a song about it. I heard it.
I know.
Yeah.
You got moves like Jagger too?
No, that's the worst band ever.
Kind of now. I mean, it's topical because it's made everybody. It was like everyone. It was like Lori Loughlin shit in everybody's mouth in North America. So now, if we're talking about paid education, what about I'll donate a gym to this university. Oh, well, your son is already, he's pre-approved.
That's not an education problem. That's a money problem.
It is a money problem.
That's like,
I think that's the reason that some of these schools have the great facilities that they have.
Yeah.
That for me to go to and not have to pay for it. So, I mean, if somebody wants to donate a gym to get their kid into school, so be it.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I honestly don't have much of an issue with it.
Okay.
I have an issue with the way that they had to go about it, because it's something so underhanded, like maybe taking away scholarships from kids that deserve them.
Which it was a scholarship program.
I would rather just have them build a gym, and you know that your parent's name is on that gym, and so that's why you got into the school. Not pretend that you're
it should be on the form.
Yeah.
When you submit it with a check.
Don't pretend that you're a tennis player and you make out a tennis scholarship and you take it away from some kid that really does deserve that. That's the shitty part of it.
The education system differences between Canada and the U.S. It's a chasm. It's a nightmare.
We
have to be careful we don't get into talking about education in other countries, because it's a disaster.
Oh, I mean, if you look at the statistics, right, like employment, education, quality of life, they're nowhere near the top. I would like to see an astronomical amount of money being involved. Really, like, I mean, it's just a shitty thing. It's more about the loss of scholarships for kids who really need them. That's the real big thing about it, right? At the end of the day, do I get butthurt? I never went, nor will I ever go over this. No, I think it should be like an astronomical amount of money, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the majority of that money should go and get dispersed throughout the university for other programs, and not just a piece of architecture.
Just do it. Just do what Bernie says.
What? Give them all.
Everyone gets in. That's what most of the advanced civilizations or societies in Europe do.
Well, and then
it's just everybody gets in. Everybody can get whatever, and if you work, you will complete it. If you don't, you will go away. It is. Take the money out of that equation. It's terrible.
So have you heard about this other, on the same topic of education and people paying for, like, working the system, let's say, to get in?
Yeah.
There's and it was a group that is supposed to help you get into schools for funding. I don't know if you heard about this, but basically what it did was that if you were came from a wealthy family, you could sign over your guardianship to somebody else.
Yes, I've heard about this.
So then you no longer came from, and you qualify for low income reimbursements
assistance.
and financial
Financial
assistance
aid,
and everything.
yeah.
So there was this like abnormal number of kids that transferred their guardianship to other people right when they were starting school.
People that worked for them or
Yeah.
grandparents that never made any money. Or
And apparently it was a
whatever.
really easy legal process to do.
Well, it's a loophole.
Yeah.
Is it right? There's no law they're breaking. Is it unethical? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
Not
definitely
illegal, but
taking
it's
away.
wrong.
That's
Yeah.
definitely taking money away from people that
Yeah.
that really deserve it.
Yeah, and
Or need it.
And it always seems there's just a trend that the people who really need it get dicked, and the ones who don't never do. Like it just, you're like,
Just take the money out of it.
like your parents have the money. Why? What is it that they don't like? They bore you, right? They birthed you. I mean, right? Not bored you.
They probably bore you as well.
They bore you
What
also.
They bore
teenager
you.
listens
Yeah,
to their parents?
I was bored. It's a new word. I'm getting bored. So like to sign over guardianship, like that's so extreme. It's so cheap. So cheap, especially when you have the cash. It's not even, you don't even miss it. You don't
Yeah.
even know it's gone.
Well, and then there's also that gray area where, like, we make $300,000 a year. Does that mean we have after tax $85,000 for my
Yeah.
kid to go to this special school or whatever? But those parents feeling that need that if my kids want to have a future, if my kids want to be able to make $300,000 a year, or the equivalent in the future, I need to get, like, I need them to be able to get in here, and maybe I don't have the money for it. I mean, it's a case by case, and I'll guarantee you, there's people out there that are like, I got $80 million and I'm not paying for my kid's school.
Oh,
Fuck those
yeah.
people.
But there's also people that like adults that have a lot of money who's won't support their kids and what they want to do. So, but the kids suffer because their parents have a high income and they live
Yeah.
with them,
Yeah, and
even though their
those
parents aren't
kids-
willing to contribute and
Yeah.
help. So, like, well, you're on your own. Well, I'm not really on my own because our household makes so much money that I'm screwed.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
So, in that case, then it makes sense, right?
as you said,
Again,
case by case scenario.
But
right?
somebody,
Take the money out of it.
every time there's a loophole, somebody's going to exploit it for
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh, totally. Because it's a tiny little thing, and it's like a club of people exposing it, and then it gets blown up. What makes a good teacher?
Oh boy, that's.
Like
I can name them:
Okay.
Paul Brown, Joe Jaworski, and Don McPherson.
Okay. What one thing did all three of them have that stuck out?
They were all teaching us to learn, and I think they all probably loved what they were teaching as well. So they came at it with that passion in the first place. I think if you take a teacher that wants to teach, I don't know, Jim or home ec, and then you say, okay, your geography, good luck reaching those kids. And not to their fault or their, you know what I mean? Like, if you love what you're, I don't know if you ever had to teach someone something. If you love that subject, it's not just easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's like getting to talk with your friends. It's like getting to talk about the thing you love the most.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, and so I think it's tough if teachers, and I don't know how you would work a system where teachers are only teaching the things that they love, but maybe if teachers were teaching things that people needed to use, and you brought people in that have a business background to teach about business or whatever, or love Italian, that's the guy that should teach Italian.
Well, I
I don't know how we do that.
Yeah.
It's a lofty goal. I get it, but
You get an Italian man with a translator,
yeah.
and he speaks very slowly and conjugates everything.
Yeah, for sure. The best teachers are people that love what they're teaching.
Yeah.
And it's always the ones that are not. I mean, unless you find like a real, needle in a haystack with your English literature course, and makes Shakespeare and the I don't know any other classics, War and Peace or whatever, sound really
Sure.
interesting and immersive and get you going. Then great. But I find it's always the ones that are teaching the electives, the not like the
Right.
psychologies and the
The
sociology,
things that you will be passionate about.
the things that have practical application,
Yeah.
right? Like I will never dissect a frog, and if I ever do at this age, I'll probably be arrested for it.
I got in trouble when I did mine.
I know a guy who blew up the lung when you get the heart in the lung, and my teacher's like, hey, if you blow here in the trachea, it'll expand the lung, and the guy did it, and then it like flew back into his mouth. I'm like, you knocked on the door and said, spit in my mouth, lung. Like you fucking asked for that.
You're right. That should definitely be taken away from school, just because teenagers are not responsible enough to be dissecting anything.
No, and
They
like,
don't learn anything anyways.
Like, why is are Bunsen burners? Like, I don't know what's being taught now, but is chemistry gone and Google searching in? Like, what? Like, if it if what's happening in the world isn't being taught in the schools, and it's the same archaic system, there's no evolution of thought. Right? Like you're rushing them in to get them to spend the money on the universities because they've realized there's a cycle here that works and creates profit and makes people rich somehow. Then the way of the world is right now, we all need computers in our lives. We all have handheld devices, and no kid is being taught how to navigate the world with those things. They're being taught Canadian history, which you need to know where you came from to know where you're going. But you also need to know that the thing in your hand can get you arrested if you send the wrong picture to somebody in the wrong fucking state.
Yeah, I think education is lagging behind reality and technology, and just like so many things are, because we're advancing so quickly in that way that everything else isn't keeping up with it.
You can't keep up with it,
Facial recognition software was pretty much non-existent 3 to 4 years ago. Now
it's free.
Now it's free, and you can get an app on your phone to do it, and some Russian has access to it.
See, this is one of the ways in which I walk in the world very naively. I guess I exist with this secret hope that after I left the schooling system, that everything got figured out, and now all of those people are learning valuable lessons, and that, all the things that didn't work for me have been resolved and sorted out.
Nope.
And I know, cognitively that's not true, but I don't know. I guess I want it so bad that I walked away from it and never looked back and just assumed that, they'll fix that out in a year. They'll fix it up in a year or two, and that'll all be sorted out. And then people will just come to the workforce ready to work and know what to do and hit the ground running. And it makes me at times a very unforgiving supervisor.
I totally know.
I was thinking about it today on my deck after work. I'm just like, you're being a dick. Fuck. I'm blowing it.
Well,
we through the city, we offer a course internally called Generations in the Workplace, and it's how to deal with people from, because generationally we have different values and concepts, and a lot of like to us, our parents' generation, that was sort of the baby boomer-esque generation, was about loyalty. They got a job and they stayed at a job for 30 years. We're still loyal, but we question more. We're not just toe the company line and things. Whereas some of the younger generations now are more fleeting. Like if they don't like what you have to say, they'll leave, and they don't worry about not having a job, and then they'll go somewhere else. They do a thing, but they don't have any loyalty to where they work.
Company,
Can I
Which is how it should be, I think. But
I'd like to ask a question about this course. Do at any time the people who are instructing this course bring in people from other generations at all and have them talk to the people who are learning about the other generations?
Interesting.
Not that I'm aware of.
It sounds like a course based on Simon Sinek's work.
Sure.
I mean, it's fun. You don't know, but I'm just wondering, you can have all of the psychological analysis done on the millennial generation, and unless you bring them in to converse with them, that course seems kind of moot to me, right? Because it's just one person explaining their version of what both of you are trying to learn about, while none of you are talking to the people you're trying to be
quite
with.
Often you're getting people from all those generational groups in the class, so you're getting experience.
Okay, so it's not
right?
Okay, all right, so there is a mixed bag. Okay.
And they say the big one that got me was how people that would have been, say, the generation ahead of me, I'm a Gen Xer, so somebody who's a baby boomer relates more to a millennial because that's their kids quite often. Like there's the gap where the people just a generation ahead of me aren't my parents. Like my parents are kind of pre-baby boomers, right?
Okay.
They're different, and I don't know why.
Yeah, but they get along, like the baby boomers get along with the people just after me because their kids are like that. So they know how to get along with their kids. Right. But they don't know how to get along with that the gap in the middle, the Gen Xers, right? So
we were talking about this on something.
Sometimes in the workplace you're kind of stuck in the middle between the newbies and the old people, and you don't really relate to either of them.
You're on your own island, and it's all
you got to wait 20 years for that next generation.
You got to go, and then where the next generation's coming through, that's your kid's age, and then you can relate to them.
What was a teaching style that really spoke to you? Like how? I mean, I know, Mark, you were like, "Fuck you, I got this," and.
Well, not that dramatic,
I'll take it to a 10. But when you did get interested, I guess, when it was seriously, when you were passionate about something or something sparked your interest, do you remember what it was that drew you to it? Like everyone has a teaching style that they respond to, I guess is.
When I came into anything that I was interested in or passionate about, my preferred teaching style is get the fuck out of my way, please.
Leave it on the table.
I don't
I'll
need
figure
your
it
help. Yeah, exactly. You need to go now because
So minimal instruction.
No instruction. Just get out of my way.
Just let you process it. And
it's not hard to run downhill. It's hard to run uphill.
It is for me now because I blew my Achilles tendon.
I guess
But I
so.
get your metaphor.
You know what I
or
mean?
a simile? What is that? Is that...
I think it's a metaphor.
I can... Oh, that's banging your face with the microphone. Okay, so just let you go off and...
I don't think any specific teaching style like kinesthetic or auditory, I don't think any of those... I don't think you could use any of those to my benefit to teach me something that I'm not interested in, that I don't care about.
Okay.
I will tune you out across the board. Nobody's home. I'm not paying attention. You can't work the system. I mean, as far as like, how do I learn? I guess I learn by hands-on doing it. Like, okay, I want to do this.
That's what I'm kind of getting at.
And so, because I'm self-taught with computers. So I'm like, okay, someone needs this. I'm going to sit down and figure this out. And so taking a course isn't very helpful for me. I want to sit down and go, okay, what's the battlefield? What do I have? What are my tools? Okay, it's got to be one of these things somewhere in here. And maybe I'll look up minor details, but usually I just want to go through it, like do it live.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, and that's kind of what I was leaning towards. Like, not so much like, Pavlov's dog. You know, like the whole response thing. But what makes you get on something, Mark? Do you...
The teaching styles I like are, I'm a very visual learner.
Okay.
Because I have a really good memory, so I can visualize. I don't need to learn the thing that's written on the chalkboard. I can look at the chalkboard, and when I write the exam, I can read it in my brain off the chalkboard because I remember what it looks like. But I'm an experiential learner. I think those are the best teachers, the ones that make you experience the stuff that you're being taught. They don't just put it in written form. They don't just say it. It's kind of the multimedia experience where you see stuff, you live stuff, you get outside the classroom, you hands-on things. I think it's that multifaceted format, which usually comes from a passionate teacher that likes their subject.
Yeah.
That gets you really wrapped up in it. So that's the kind of teaching style that I always like. Somebody that's super energetic about what they're doing, and you can tell, and that rubs off on me.
I can sympathize. I've had a couple teachers who were like that, or were just active teachers. They weren't, I will read the curriculum and then we will be done 9 months from now.
And quick exercises, like, this is how you do the thing. Here, try the thing. Okay, now, but not like a long assignment. Just give it like a little. Some
Bullets.
teachers just seem to teach you something and like, okay, here's 3 hours worth of homework to learn it.
When I was doing training for people, that's what I found was like, I'm going to show you something, then I want to watch you do it, and then go home and do it again. And when I see it tomorrow, if you haven't done it, you have to do it, because there's no point. If you just memorizing the facts or looking at the list or going, okay, I know the concept, doing it was always what I want. Like, I need you to do it in front of me so that I can, like, now you'll get it,
I definitely know. With showing new people at work the tricks of the trade and learning, like with everything, there's learning how to do it, and then there's learning how to be a part of it, right? Like, you can get a new job and learn the job, but then you got to learn how to work at XYZ job.
Right.
I remember with the very brief in time point where I was in the military, repetition is where I really excelled, because they would do a thing, like you're saying, Mark, like short bursts, as opposed to long memorizations, which also came from dancing too. I think I was so great at marching because of dancing for so long. Like,
you got rhythm.
I got music. I can't ask for anything more, but I'm going to refrain on that one. I know where that would go. But yeah, so they would do it. They would do a step or some sort of action or part of the lesson, and then you'd do it, and then you would repeat it until you got bored of it, and then they would incorporate the second piece, and you would loop the two in. That's where I really excelled, because
it's like learning choreography.
It is exactly like learning choreography, but it's always been something that I apply to almost everything I do, where I'm like, okay, too much creates the anxiety, but baby steps. Okay, this week I'm going to learn how to put the podcast on Instagram. This week I'm going to learn how to make silence, right? Like those things that came from this are still ways that I learned when I was in high school.
Right. Yeah.
And
I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it. Then I'm going to show you how we're going to do it. Then I'm going to get you to do it. And then we're going to go over it.
Yep.
And then that's kind of the system that always works for me. It's like, explain it. Okay, so I got a blueprint in my head.
Right.
Then
where we're heading.
Then I watch you do it,
Yeah.
so that I can follow the blueprint that you told me and watch it. Then I can see if I can duplicate it, and then you can go over where I went wrong.
Because it plays to two of my weaknesses, my ego and my ADD. Because you'll lose me if it's too long, and you're challenging me. So I'm going to challenge you back and be like, I can do that, right? So now I'm engaged. Now you've got me. Where you're talking about the teaching style where teachers get you engaged. They challenge you to get involved in the debate as opposed to listen to me reiterate a passage from this textbook. And I hated textbooks. That's why I keep bringing them up.
And I also like teachers that are able to, I don't know how to explain this, that aren't threatened by people that appear to not be paying attention. So my biggest problem was teachers that if you weren't paying attention to them, like weren't working at the bullboard, they'd stop and they'd want to get your attention. They'd stop it.
Yeah.
So they get thrown off their lesson plan. What I learned later on, taking courses like related to my current job, is that sometimes if you already understand the concept that they're teaching and they're going to teach it for another 10 minutes, allow me to just do what I need to do while you're still teaching it to the kid that doesn't get it yet, or the person that doesn't get it yet. And don't be threatened by that. So I go to lots of computer training. We sit with computers in front of us. Like it's us computer teacher.
Yeah.
Right? We have full computers, internet access, everything in front of us while you're learning, while you're going through a lesson. So you can, if you diverge in the lesson you understand, I can go and look up something, which allowed me to, if they made a point and I wanted to learn more about a certain point and I already understood what they did, I'd look it up. We'd be talking about a certain program and I'd be downloading the program and testing it out while we talked about it. And I found I learned huge being able to be hands-on and being allowed to fill in the spots that I wanted to fill in. Because I love when I'm hearing something, I love to know what something is. Like if you say a word, even while we're sitting here doing a podcast that I hadn't heard, I'll search the word and learn what you meant by it.
Right.
Because I'm that kind of person, and allowing me to do that in a training environment was a great way to learn. But telling me that I have to sit there and I can't play with my computer while you're talking, I'm not playing a game, but I'm
down.
Yeah, I'm like accelerating I'm accelerating my learning and adding on to it. And being able to do that was hugely beneficial. And I think lots of kids would be able to learn that way.
Here's the thing encompasses that is, as we get older, and real money's on the table, that's when you start getting the kind of training you need. I've done training where it's like 5 people in a room for sales training and stuff, because that teacher to student number is valuable and it's going to result in real money. But when you've got everybody in grade 5, everybody that's alive is in school, and you're trying to pander to, in a lot of ways, the lowest common denominator. Like we have to go at the slowest pace that anybody, the slowest pace that anybody needs. Again, it's sort of a pie in the sky dream that I'd like to see, but that's why they talk about teacher student ratios and stuff being so important. And, if you could get that down to like that one-on-one training you get sometimes where it's like, I'm screwed on this thing. I need to blow up this beaver dam so the waters can flow. And I don't know how you do that in, when everybody has to go to the same school.
It's just
unless as a society we have the will to say like, let's really educate people instead of saying like, let's put them in school.
And I mean, we like if I could invent, like a sorting hat from Harry Potter and put it on kids in grade 5, grade 6. Clearly, where all my ideas come from. Hufflepuff, Gryffindor.
Well, so what you're kind of saying, what I'm saying is that you like your learning styles. Like you said, you're diagnosed with ADD.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing a few years ago, or I don't know if it's still going on, was that teaching kids that have problems focusing, they've discovered like things like a fidget spinner, right?
Yes.
That allows kids to channel some energy so that they can focus. Well, that was never allowed when we were in school.
That was the first thing they stopped you from doing.
And I think that's a huge benefit. And that's kind of what I was explaining with the computers. It allows me to fidget, but fidget with the computer, with learning, with searching, with
You're
doing
still
different
locked in.
things. But I'm still, it's my way of learning. I can't learn by just staring at you and listening. But I can learn by doing some of the things and acting things out while I'm listening to you do that. That makes me learn. Sometimes by doing something else, you can focus on this better. And you have to allow people to do that.
And it's
It was a straight path.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I at work, I do more work when I'm allowed to take a couple minutes, reprieve, fuck around on the net for a second, catch up on something. Like, that's my fidget.
Yeah.
Because if you try to funnel all of this work that you want me to do only because I'm a Philistine and you're an Egyptian and you're beating me, you're not going to get my best results.
Right.
It's not going to happen. But if you let me fidget and fuck around 10, 20 minutes a day, just you view it as lost time,
Right.
but you get more.
That's what's allowing me to be twice as productive for the other 7.5 hours.
Exactly. And no teachers are catering to the idea that you need to find out what a child's learning style is like.
Yeah.
And then break off into, okay, like maybe, 3 or 4 grade 7 classes, but then you've got to hire more teachers, and then you have to give a bigger fuck about your education system.
And unfortunately, maybe that's where the private school funding comes into play.
Yeah,
Why
that's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe there is a better education there if it's being more customized, if it's being lower ratios, students to teachers.
Yeah, and then that would also, I mean, you raise a shitty kid, they're going to be shitty. So private school really is just a sad circumstance of it's fucking collateral damage in the personality of the person.
Well, I do most of my work with something on in headphones. Like I'm either listening to music or a podcast or something, and I find I can't concentrate as well when something's not going on in headphones with me.
It was always such, like, I could take small batches, but then when it was just so saturated math or saturated history, it just wouldn't work. And there's so many kids out there who, like, I hear you guys talk about university and wanting to go and wanting to have gone. And it's because of that learning disability. And it's still, I mean, by no means is it anywhere near it used to be. But if I'm in some sort of training seminar at work, like 30, 40 minutes in, I'm like, you need to break this up, man.
Yeah.
Like you can't be in 6th gear. It's not how not everybody in the room is
Right.
just sucking in information. But I mean, they're wishing one hand, shit in the other, right, Jason?
I guess I'm not familiar with that phrasing.
No?
No,
Okay.
that's a new one for me.
Wishing one hand, shit in the other. Tell me what fills up first. Will your wishes come true, or you have a handful of shit?
Gotcha.
So go ahead. You go.
No. You go.
I was
first.
just going to say, I'm kind of taking it back to the spirit of our podcast.
That's where I was.
Here,
I was.
Is that? So I'm just going to put it in the sense that if you had this to all do again, if you had to go back to the start of high school, where you can now make the decision to try harder or take certain courses is going to steer you in another direction. Do you think, knowing what you know now, like, where would you end up? Not just like what would you tell yourself, but where do you think you'd be? Like, if knowing what you do now, would you still be doing what you're doing, or like where do you think you'd be?
In the NBA.
Nice.
For like,
you tell yourself to go to the NBA.
Yeah, like I would. No, I mean, I thought I was going to be a basketball player until everybody else grew. So like that was a hard way to find out that I wasn't going far. Where would I be? I think I would be definitely more involved in the arts. I for sure would be. Like, I looked at art class going, that's a class?
Yeah.
That's not a class for me. Like I was envious of that, right? Like I took health and childcare because I thought I wanted to be a healthcare aide or a child care person, which was the worst idea because I was just doing it because I thought it would be a breeze, and B because there was girls in it. Like, and I was one of 2 guys. So
if you can make decisions based solely on education and not who's in the class.
Yeah. But so, no, I think I would have, because I danced and I sang and I was in band. Like, I was in a lot of creative outlets for a very long time. And I think if someone had been like, if you can go on tour with a dance troupe or go to RWB and see the work that goes into it, just something that's in that field, not what, like, I would never be a ballet dancer, but go see what it takes. Like you're saying, Jason, I would be there. I wouldn't have gone. I wouldn't have not gone to university. I think I would have gone to a performing arts school. To tell you the truth, definitely 100%. Where do you think you'd be?
Part of me, I always said, and for some reason, if I had to go do it again, I would have done something boring probably, because I thought I always wanted to get into pharmacy. I don't know why, but the pharmacy's always really interested me, because I liked the science and I was really good at science. So I went against the grain of what I was good at in high school. I aced sciences. I was really good at science and math, but I sucked at writing, abstract concepts. But then I went into the social sciences and I steered away from the absolute sciences, right?
Yeah.
So I think if I had to do again, like I was really good at chemistry and I was really good at that kind of stuff and I understand those concepts. I would have liked to do that, I think. And then maybe, do that early and then develop my career into something else.
God, it would be so nice if you had a prescription pad.
But I think it would have been really cool to do that because I like the chemistry side of it. I like the way that drugs work on the body and the brain. And I took a course in university called Drugs and Behavior. And it was all about the way that different medications and drugs affect your brain, your body, the
all
way
the
that
systems.
Yeah, that control different neurotransmitters and different chemical releases. And I found it really fascinating and really easy to understand. So I probably would have gone something to do science-y like that because I was naturally good at it instead of fighting and trying to get into a field of something that I sucked at. Totally. Now that I've steered back to computers, that's a little more of the science aspect. But
okay,
yeah, I would have done that, and I would have done better in high school to allow myself to get there, and then realizing that even the first thing you do out of high school, you could do for 20 years and still do something else for 20 years.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. I always thought I had to pick something I'm going to do forever.
And 20 years when you're 18, 19,
yeah.
that's a big fucking chunk of time.
But now that I've done 20 years at a career, I don't feel old.
Yeah.
No.
I'm like, I can go do something else for another 20 years, something completely different. But I can't.
Now for something completely different.
But I can't go and do the thing that requires a lot of education.
Yeah.
You have to do that first. And then do something, do your passion later on.
Right.
Get the education to get the pretty good job to then do the passion that if you can turn into another job, end your life on.
You can become a doctor, a medical doctor, and then get into comedy and acting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Later on in life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get a theater degree and then suddenly get into being a doctor later in life.
Like there's one Patch Adams. It's not, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Jason?
Well, see, I made the mistake of I squandered, 7 to 10 years intentionally not getting into the computer business because I loved it so much. I didn't want to make a job of it and make myself hate it, which would probably be one of my biggest mistakes in life. My biggest piece of advice to people is don't do that. If you find something you're passionate about and you love and you can make money doing it, just fucking go do it. Just get on with it. I would still be in the same field. I would just be 10 years ahead of myself now.
Okay, yeah.
And because of the way that industry cycles, it seems like every decade there's one huge concept that comes and completely changes the game. Like a graphical interface going to the first Windows and the early Macs.
It could be 10 years closer to that.
And then the internet. So all of those were opportunities because I wasn't really deeply steeped in the industry yet. That like I saw them coming and I'm just like, too late for me. Kind of like almost in a way like what Mark is saying. But if I had started 7 to 10 years earlier, I would have been very much on the ground floor with computers. And I would be in a completely different place right now. I would probably be wealthy beyond my imaginings. And also have the flexibility to do work on the kinds of pet projects that I would like.
Yeah.
Whereas now there's a certain grounding, there's a certain reality of like, you need to fix the virus.
I would also add in never stop learning, never turn down an opportunity to learn something new or to learn something more about the thing you're already doing. I've learned more just doing like courses while I'm at work than I did before I got my job. Like just taking related things to further my career.
I would tell myself that too because I stopped learning for a while. I thought I was going to go on to be. There was a point after high school where I got heavy into writing and I started writing a blog when blogs were like the first, like what's a blog, right?
Yeah.
And through circumstance it got stolen actually by an ex-girlfriend. Fuck you. And
Blog napped.
For the win.
You won like an hour ago. This is just dribbles now. And that crushed me. And at that point I didn't want to try again. I didn't want to start again. But that was one of those things that I think would have been like a second, like not having gone to university would have been like, you could have been a writer, right? Because like a lot of blogs that I was writing while I was writing had become books, right? Because you just eventually edit yourself and then you've got this somewhat linear story. Waiter Rant was one of them, which was just a waiter from some fancy cafe in Chicago, I think, and he would rant about his day, and then and I was like, I could go that way. So you're right about the learning thing. I took a big pause from learning things in life because I just got so defeated by that stupid blog loss that.
But look at you now.
Oh yeah, no. And you know what this is? This right now.
This podcast is right.
Yeah.
It's a very bittersweet continuation of it for sure.
Can you give like a brief synopsis to our listeners about how the podcast came to be? Like,
no, definitely we can do that
because that's an educationally type thing, isn't it?
It's very much. It totally is, and I meant to bring it up earlier, but we get off on these rants. Okay, so the inception of this podcast came from the idea that about a year and a half ago now, I think. Yeah, almost 2 years ago, I was going to quit working and go back to school. And constantly throughout my life, I've been told that I have a face for radio. And so, which is why on the Instagram, there's no pictures of me. No, that's not why.
He's a very handsome man.
Thank you. This voice is attached to an even better beard. But so I decided to try to get into Red River, and I'm over this now, so I can talk about this like an adult.
It's not too soon.
Yeah, it's not too soon.
Because you didn't mention it at the time. I had no idea until it was all done.
Well, it's because I did the thing that I hate doing, which is telling everybody something, and then you got to retract it because then you got 50 retractions to make.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, they'll find out soon enough. Anyways, so I go to the thing. I go to the basic testing, pass that, get the portfolio, freak out for an entire summer because.
What course was this that you were applying for?
It was the Creative Communications course at Red River College in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And so I did it all and was like just losing my mind, freaking out, putting so much effort into this, thinking that if I didn't get into school, then the rest of my life, it was
over.
Over. Pivotal moment.
Yep.
Find out that fall. I don't get it. I just get an email. You can resubmit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so like, no.
You got any tips for me?
Where's the red pen? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I could apply again and pay you more money to not know why I need, like, where to improve. So that was a kick to the balls. But then it kind of turned back into, okay, all right. You know what? You wouldn't have been a good student. I wouldn't have been a good mature student.
Right.
It's a lot of money. It would have been a very big change. I should have done it. Like it's when you're in a relationship and your life is like you're saying, Mark, like nothing would have stopped had I got in. I would have done it.
Yep.
Right. Like it just would have been the thing. But I'm so glad that I didn't because I like my life the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to not work. I don't want to have a great life with my partner. I don't want to lose all the things that afford me that now. So wait a minute. Why can't I just do what I was going to do?
Right.
And not go to school. Cut out the $12,000.
Yeah.
The teachers I would have argued with because I've got too much life experience and my bullshit meter is right fucking on.
Right.
So I'm going to be the worst person in that class, probably get kicked out.
Learning a bunch of things you don't care about.
Learning a bunch of things that until I would get to the point of production and maybe possibly radio or something talking. So then I was like, all right, well, how many hours does it take to become a pro at something? What is it? Is it 1,000 hours?
I don't know.
10,000
stats,
hours?
yeah.
I think it's 10,000.
It's 10,000 hours and you're considered a genius in your field. So I was like, I got nothing but fucking time. So I took the money I was going to go to school with, dropped it into this, and started just learning.
On the fly.
On the fucking fly. Like, crash and burn, GarageBand can suck my asshole, lost podcasts, bad recordings, like, and everything.
And what is it, 6 months? Look at all of the things that you've learned.
It was a year
Was it?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So do you think you've learned more just doing it yourself than you ever could have learned in a classroom? I mean, that's relevant to what you want to do.
It cut out everything that I would have to have gone through to get to, like, I have the bulk. I have the meat of what I wanted.
Distilled it
right?
down.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have to go through video production to get to this, but fuck, it would have helped because, you know, it takes more time and you're doing it on your own. See, I don't have I didn't go to school, so I don't have the cohorts to be like, hey, I'm trying to do the same thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Can I bounce this off you, right? Like, I sit here and I crash and burn and figure shit out and always say it's a hobby and it's not a job, although it would be fun if it was if I could get a little greasy.
Not that you're opposed to have monetary gain from this.
You know, not if that's the way it goes, it's the way it goes. I mean, it'll get there when it gets there.
When you were talking about that podcasting group that meets once a month and stuff,
yeah,
so you still are meeting those people.
I haven't met them yet, actually. I have not met any of them. So if
Right.
any of you are from Winnipeg and you've heard this, I keep
See you
I've
soon.
I've messaged you a couple times and I've never shown up. So my bad. That's on me. The reason for this podcast was we started with The Real Debaters, which was the movie one that Mark is on that you've heard us talk about.
I did one.
You did one. You were part
Sort
of
of.
the Lost Podcast scenario and then Mark tried to find it. And yeah, that was interesting. So the movie one was based on what I knew, but for anybody out there who's listening and you're just tuning into this episode, Mark and Jason and myself are fairly new friends. So we figured, why not do this whole thing together? Because it would be the glue in our friendship.
Oh boy.
Anyway, yeah, I went a little soft on that one for you. So that's the story of how it all came to be. But it is.
So this is all basically an educational endeavor for you.
Yeah. While at the same.
Having some fun along the way.
And, yeah, exactly. And challenging my mind and not letting it get stale and, you know, going, oh, fuck, that's not right. A lot more than way to go, son.
So if you're listening to this is Mike's just learning as he goes, and it gets better and better and better each
Yeah.
week.
It's a beautiful fucking thing to witness.
If anybody out there thinks this is great, you can figure this. Like it probably will take you less time.
We're literally sitting in his living room.
Yes, exactly. It's in my living room. Chocolat is on in the background. Okay, so it's a great point that you bring up, Mark, because it is about still challenging yourself and learning, even though you're outside of whatever education you took.
Exactly. If you didn't want to keep learning and do something different, this would never have happened.
Exactly. And thanks to my mom too, because she was a lot of the reason. She was very supportive of this, and because I'm like, I don't want this to be a giant financial mistake, and then you know it's on Kijiji 2 weeks later, trying to get rid of the.
I think you've already got your money's worth out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Spending time with your puns, Mark, and Jason's deep dives. The combination, therefore, this living room is a good time. I think we all can agree that looking back, it's just take it a little bit more seriously and get out there and learn what you love.
I would have realized you needed to take education seriously for a few years in high school just to get the grades.
Yep.
So that you had lots of options.
Right.
I never realized I was closing so many doors by not getting better grades. Even if I didn't want to do any of those things, it would have been nice to have, like, even
options.
if you don't want to go to the party, it's nice to get invited.
Yeah.
And I basically fucking shat on all my invites by not doing better in high school. And then I could have, like, after you've done that, you can go fuck around for a couple of years after high school.
You get the ability to.
Right?
Trust me.
And I would recommend that too. Like, work hard for a few years, take a few years off just to grow up a little bit, like, you know, take a break a little bit and then go back to doing something you want to do. But if you don't get those good grades, you're fucked. Totally and that would be a huge thing I'd change.
Kids, if you're listening and you're in the room with your parents while this is going on, good grades and giving a fuck are important. So tell your parents it's okay to give a fuck because we said so.
I think, your advice, Mark, you should have known better moment. That's, I dumb lucked into that. Like, not because I was wise.
Not because you planned it.
I just, exactly. I'm like, it seemed like a good idea. I'm like, I should probably keep your options open. Of course, then didn't take advantage of those options, but I had those things open. But that, I think, is that's the number 2 piece of advice that I would give as my should have known better moment. The number 1 thing is just to find something you're passionate about. Don't be afraid to do it. And just keep looking. If you don't find something you're passionate about, just keep looking, get creative, get inventive, find a way to test it out and see what it's like. And that's if education is leading you towards a job or career, and I know it can lead you to a lot of other things, just keep going until you find something that you can be passionate about.
What's the saying? If you do something you love, you never work a day in your life.
They
That's
say that, and then
exactly
you get your own business out of your home, and then you're working 18 hours a day.
On this topic, before Mike gives us his closing thoughts on, we'd be remiss to not say that it's Jason's birthday today.
Oh, you
It
took the
is.
words right out of
Happy
my mouth.
birthday to me.
As he's been
Happy-
sitting here wearing a little blue,
The whole time. I have
know
not
what?
Little
taken
blue
my
birthday
outfit
hat.
off.
Mark, take a picture of him right now. We got to post. We'll post
Uh-huh.
the fun stuffed animals that you look like in Jason's party hat, party balloon.
So yeah, on this day of my birth, I'm just so grateful for the friends I've got, the connections I've made, the changes I've made, and this podcast has actually been a part of that.
And the candy in your hands.
how long do I have to hold this posed photo?
It's some natural organics going on over there.
I'm just trying a whole bunch of different modes on here.
Okay. Well, on that note, I will do the closeout here. Thank you for... Oh, no, I got to give my 2 cents before we get out of here. Yeah. More and better grades, or just better grades, not more of them. You can only obtain so many. And just not being a big one. Not thinking that learning wasn't cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was really... I was afraid to really sink my teeth into it, I think, and I don't know where that came from. It started in high school for sure. I think it was part and parcel with the diagnosis of the ADD, because it was it took a stride out of my step.
Yeah.
Right. So I just was like, well, there's no point in trying, because you're behind.
You're already fucked.
You're either 15 seconds ahead or 15 seconds early, right? And
You're never on time.
You're never on time. So why bother? But I would tell myself that, it's okay. You can figure it out. You just have to take the time to figure out what your issue is and work on that, and the grades will follow.
Beautiful.
So on that note, thank you for everybody who's tuned in to another episode of Should Have Known Better. If you're listening to us on your preferred method and you want to check us out somewhere else, we are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play Music, and we also have a website on Podbean as well too. If you want to check us out online, it's Should Have Known Better Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to give us an email for an idea for a show, or you want to let us know what you think about the show, you can email us at shouldhaveknownbetterpodcast@gmail.com. They wouldn't let me use the apostrophe VE, so it's shouldhaveknownbetterpodcast@gmail.com. I am Michael Petro. I am one of the 3 members of the show. I've got
Jason Brett Fallman over here.
and
Mark Cowell.
we're gone.